Tom Cameron Swayze.
Chad Huntley. David Benson. John Chen. Tom Brokaw.
Christmas 2004. In the air and on the ground, thousands of travelers wonder when they will be able to celebrate. On the front lines, troops celebrate in Iraq and Afghanistan as the wars go on. On the court, after last month's brawl, how the NBA is playing in the court of public opinion. And in America, the celebrations, the services, and the helping hands on this Christmas day.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with John Siegenthaler. Substituting tonight, Hoda Kotb.
And good evening, everyone. This is a holiday that's supposed to be all about coming home to family and friends, but this year tens of thousands of travelers could not get where they were going. Others who got there still don't have their bags, and now many more have just learned of a new problem that could mean new headaches getting back home. NBC's Martin Savage is at Atlanta's Hartsfield Airport. Martin?
Good evening to you, Hoda. Thousands of passengers here in Atlanta and across the nation trying to make that last-minute dash home for Christmas found their planes and their plans grounded.
Comair called it a computer glitch. For passengers, it was a holiday Grinch that, if it didn't steal Christmas, at least made the going extremely difficult.
Their computers were down.
The airline says it's going to have a limited flight schedule tomorrow. It's handing out vouchers for meals and hotels, and it's also waiving fees for passengers who want to change their tickets between now and the end of the year. Hoda?
NBC's Martin Savage, thanks very much. Many other Americans could not be with their loved ones this Christmas because they are overseas 6,000 miles from home in the war zone in Iraq. NBC's Richard Engel reports on Christmas in Baghdad.
A wet Christmas at Baghdad's Camp Falcon.
Merry Christmas!
And back in this country, President Bush spent Christmas Day with his family at Camp David and visiting with Marines stationed there. He also had a message for the American people. NBC's Bob Kerr reports.
On Christmas Eve, President Bush called to thank troops in Iraq, and today in his weekly radio address, he repeated that he believes the battle is worthy.
By bringing liberty to the oppressed, our troops are helping to win the war on terror, and they are defending the freedom and security of us all.
Moments after a pre-Christmas visit with some of the 10,000 Americans wounded in Iraq, the president called the war a vital mission for peace, a hopeful moment in the history of the world.
Confident democracy will prevail in Iraq. I know a free Iraq will lead to a more peaceful world.
But one historian wonders whether time is on the president's side.
If he doesn't start showing progress on the ground, I think he's going to be in trouble.
This week, specifically, and more candidly than before, the president acknowledged problems with Iraqi troops.
There have been some cases where when the heat got on...
And President Bush of that. On the night the war began, he told the nation it could be longer and more difficult than some predict. And he said helping Iraq achieve freedom would require a sustained commitment. Bob Kerr, NBC News at the White House.
The war in Iraq is affecting hundreds of American children as well. Some of the youngsters have to endure the absence of their mom or dad for several months, maybe even longer. Others, though, have it much worse. NBC's Carrie Sanders has the story of a little boy in North Carolina facing a grown-up problem.
9-year-old John Krause, excited this Christmas Day, opening presents, including those from his father. Carrie Sanders, NBC News, Asheboro, North Carolina.
There are close to 18,000 American troops in Afghanistan this Christmas in the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and they celebrated the holiday too. Their commander paid a visit to some of their bases, serving lunch, handing out gifts, and rewarding many of them with badges. At the Vatican, in a chilly, steady drizzle, thousands came to St. Peter's Square to hear Pope John Paul II's traditional Christmas message. And other trouble spots around the world. His Christmas message was shorter this year than it used to be. The Pope is now 84 and suffering from Parkinson's disease, but he didn't disappoint. He offered his holiday greetings in dozens of languages. And now to Bethlehem, where thousands of pilgrims offered prayers at the traditional birthplace of Jesus. But it is no secret that tourists don't come to Bethlehem like they used to. NBC's Martin Fletcher found a place that started out as a hotspot for tourists, then turned into a hotspot for violence, and is now on the mend.
Paradise Hotel, Manger Street, Bethlehem. What an address. But it's a troubled place.
And still ahead, the fallout on the court and off as two teams go head-to-head for the first time since their ugly brawl seen around the world. And later, a few of the many reasons to celebrate this Christmas 2004. NBC News In Depth tonight. Rematch. Two NBA basketball teams whose last game ended in a violent free-for-all faced off again today. So how did it turn out? Well, when it was over, the Detroit Pistons had beaten the Indiana Pacers, and nobody threw any punches. NBC's Kevin Cork reports on winning, losing, and how they played the game.
Inside the Pacers arena today, security much tighter than usual.
All the way around, please.
No exceptions.
Tomorrow for a special edition of Meet the Press. Among Tim's guests, psychologist Phil McGraw, that's Dr. Phil, on the topic of finding common ground. Tim will also discuss political gridlock in Washington with outgoing Senators Tom Daschle and Don Nichols. Up next, a critical maneuver up in space. And down here on Earth, a new twist in the final hours before the Ukraine's do-over election. Will voters accept the outcome this time? Up in space tonight, a special delivery. An unmanned Russian spaceship filled with tons of food is in the process of docking at the International Space Station, and just in time. The crew, one American and a Russian, have had to ration supplies. If today's delivery is not successful, NASA says the crew will have to return to Earth. Tomorrow is Election Day in the Ukraine again. The first presidential runoff triggered mass protests and revealed a mysterious poisoning. So will this next round settle the question or cause more confusion? NBC's Jim Maceda on Election Eve in Kiev.
The ballots and polling stations are ready. Over 12,000 international and Ukrainian observers are in Kiev.
And up next, Christmas closer to home.
Sunday, challenges facing America's families. We'll talk with Dr. Phil McGraw. And political gridlock in Washington. Outgoing Senators Daschle and Nichols with their thoughts. Only on Meet the Press.
Sunday, the hottest New Year's fashions on Today.
In just a few hours, it will be time to close the book on Christmas 2004, a Christmas when it snowed in South Texas for the first time in more than a century. But before we close that book, NBC's Pat Dawson has a look at some of the celebrations and the spirit of giving across America today.
The celebration of Christmas Mass at New York's St. Patrick's Cathedral included a call to remember those called away by duty.
I would ask you to keep in your love and in your prayers each and every one of our women and men in the military who are right now in harm's way.
And here at home, the season of goodwill brought sacrifice too. Small acts of charity or kindness reflecting the spirit of the day. At Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C., one volunteer Santa brought gifts and joy to kids whose illnesses often make joy a fleeting thing.
Good. Do you know how to say ho, ho, ho? Ho, ho, ho. Excellent.
Crank it up, crank it up, crank it up.
In Atlanta, those without a Christmas dinner to look forward to got a warm meal and warm wishes from Pat Green.
It brings joy to my heart to be here to help these people any kind of way I can, to do anything that needs to be done.
And after a paralyzing storm buried parts of the Midwest, neither rain nor snow kept Cincinnati postal worker Don Rickett from his Christmas rounds with express mail delivery.
The ones that expect and you aren't too surprised, but the ones that don't know you're coming, they're very surprised to see the post office working on Christmas Day.
For at least one family, it meant a child's Christmas gift made it on Christmas morning. And back here in New York, the Christmas story of two cops, a young woman prematurely in labor, a taxi driver who couldn't find the hospital, and, well, you know the rest.
It was breathing, it was crying, it had a good heartbeat, and everything worked out. Beautiful baby girl.
Mother, baby, and the cops are doing fine. On a Christmas in America, just a few simple acts of goodwill, a few reasons to celebrate. Pat Dawson, NBC News, New York.
And that is NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. Thank you for watching. I'm Hoda Kotb reporting from New York, and from all of us at NBC News, have a great holiday.
What a mess. Martin, thank you. NBC's Martin Savage, who's in Atlanta this morning. Voters in Ukraine are going to the polls again today. NBC's Jim Maseda is in Kiev with more on that. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Well, some 12.
Jim Maseda in Kiev. Jim, thank you very much. And you are up to date. That's the latest news. Now back to Campbell, Amy, and Scene.